Welcome to Smart Wealth with Joshua.
Your daily stock analysis and catalysts talk. Today we're looking at Day One Biopharmaceuticals.
If you find our talks useful, please consider subscribe, like, and comment underneath.
All right, let's get right into it. We are opening up a file today that sits, right at the intersection of some high-stakes science and really aggressive market movements. We're looking at Day One Biopharmaceuticals.
And I have to say, looking at the notes we have here, the preliminary financials for 2025, analyst notes from TD Cowen, all the clinical trial data, this feels like a company that is right in the middle of a massive identity shift.
That is the perfect way to put it. We often talk about these biotech companies that are, essentially just hope. They have a cool idea, maybe a molecule in a lab.
A few mice that got better.
Exactly. But they aren't actually selling anything yet.
Oh, absolutely. The hope and a prayer phase. It's exciting, but it's so risky. You're basically just betting on a science experiment, and that phase can last for years.
4 years. Well, Day One Biopharmaceuticals is officially graduating from that phase. We're looking at a company that has moved way past the science experiment stage and is now firmly in the selling a blockbuster product stage. And the numbers they just put out for preliminary 2025, they are honestly staggering.
Yeah, I was digging through these numbers this morning, and I had to double-check I was reading them right. We're talking about net product revenue for their lead drug, OJEMDA, coming in at $155.4 million for 2025.
And just to pause on that, that is a big, big number for a first launch.
It is huge, but what really jumped out at me was the growth rate. That number represents 172% year-over-year growth. That's explosive. It's like they just flipped a switch.
That's the inflection point we always look for in these kinds of stocks. It's just so rare to see it this clearly. You have to remember, they went from clinical trials to being a real commercial driver in, less than 2 years post-approval? That is incredibly fast. Usually you see this slow ramp up, the J-curve we talk about, where doctors are hesitant, insurance companies are pushing back.
The prove it to me phase.
Exactly. But here, it looks like the market was just waiting for this drug. The demand was already there. It tells us that neuro-oncologists, the patients, they were desperate for a new option. It wasn't a slow adoption. It was a vertical takeoff.
And looking at their forward guidance, it doesn't seem like they expect a slowdown either. They're predicting U.S. net product revenue for 2026 between $225 and $250 million.
Right. And if we unpack that, we're looking at another, 45 to 61% incremental growth on top of what they just did.
So what's driving that confidence? Is it just more doctors finding out about it, or is there something more structural going on?
It's two things, really. First, yes, you have that continued adoption. The drug is currently approved for pediatric, low-grade glioma PLGG, relapsed or refractory settings.
Okay, let's just clarify that for everyone. Relapsed or refractory?
Sure. So that means kids whose cancer came back after the first treatment or kids who just didn't respond to the standard chemo. It's a group that historically has had very few options. So the uptake there has been strong because, frankly, nothing else was working that well.
Got it.
But the second factor, and this is the key to that bold 2026 guidance, is the plan to expand into frontline treatment.
Frontline meaning the very first drug you give a patient right after they get diagnosed.
Exactly. So instead of waiting for other treatments to fail, doctors would reach for OJEMDA first. That's a much, much larger market. And they have a trial running right now. It's called Firefly 2. That's looking to secure exactly that. So management's guidance is telling us they are very confident in where that's headed.
Okay, so massive revenue, confident guidance, a drug that's clearly in demand. But I want to know why. What makes OJEMDA so special? Because, brain tumors are notoriously hard to treat. We see companies fail in this space all the time. Why is this drug winning?
This is where we have to get into the science a little bit. And honestly, it's the core of their competitive moat. So OJEMDA, the drug's name is Tivorafenib. It's what's called a type 2 pan-RIF kinase inhibitor.
Okay, you're going to have to translate that for those of us who aren't PhDs.
Right, fair enough. The pan-RIF kinase part, look, that just refers to the biological switch it turns off to stop the tumor from growing. But the headline feature here, the real reason it's making all this money, is that it is brain penetrant.
It gets into the brain.
It gets into the brain, and that is incredibly difficult to do. The human body has this amazing defense called the blood-brain barrier. Think of it like a security checkpoint for your brain. Its job is to keep toxins and viruses out.
Which is usually a good thing.
A very good thing. But the problem is, it also keeps about 98% of potential cancer drugs out. Most chemo, most targeted therapies, they just bounce right off. They never actually reach the tumor. It is the single biggest challenge in treating brain cancer.
So OJEMDA has the all-access pass to get through that wall.
It does. Its chemical structure lets it cross that barrier very effectively. And that is a massive differentiator. There are plenty of other kinase inhibitors out there, but very, very few can actually get into the central nervous system for this specific disease.
That makes perfect sense. If the drug can't get to the tumor, it doesn't matter how great it is in a petri dish.
Precisely. And on top of that, you have the regulatory moat. Because this is for a pediatric disease and they got accelerated approval, they have a 5-year exclusivity window.
So that basically locks the door behind them.
It does. No generics, no direct copycats for 5 years. That gives them a clear runway to really establish the brand and dominate the market.
Now, I was reading through the notes from that neuro-oncology meeting in late 2025, and the word I kept seeing was durability. I assume that means the drug just keeps on working. Why is that so important?
Because in cancer treatment, shrinking the tumor is only half the battle. Keeping it from growing back is the other half. You see drugs that work for a few months, everyone gets excited, and then the cancer figures out a way around it. At that meeting, Day One presented 3-year follow-up data from their Firefly-1 trial.
3 years. That's a long time for this kind of data.
It is a lifetime, and the data showed durable efficacy. The responses weren't just temporary, they lasted. And that raises the bar so much higher for any competitor. Even if another company invents a brain-penetrant drug tomorrow, they are now 3 years behind on proving it can last as long as OJEMDA. You just can't speed up time.
Okay, so it sounds like a really solid foundation. But let's pivot to the business side. Great science doesn't always equal a great stock. I mean, they're not profitable yet, are they?
No, not yet. There's still pre-profitability, which is totally normal for this stage. They're spending heavily on R&D, on the sales force, on running these huge global trials. But, and this is the key, that $155 million in revenue is starting to do some really heavy lifting. It's offsetting those costs. They aren't just relying on investors for cash anymore.
And they seem pretty confident in their cash position because they just went shopping.
They did. That Mersana Therapeutics acquisition back in November 2025.
Yeah, tell me about that. Because usually a company trying to hit profitability tightens the belt. Buying another company feels bold.
It was a strategic power move. They didn't just buy it to burn cash. They done it for the assets. Specifically, they got a drug candidate called DA301. It's a type of drug called an ADC, or antibody-drug conjugate.
Okay, so for the investor, why does this matter?
It's all about diversification. Until that deal, you could argue Day One was a one-trick pony. A very good trick, but still just one. If anything happened to OJEMDA, the company was in trouble. By bringing in Day 301, management is signaling, we're so secure in our cash flow that we can start building a bigger pipeline. They're trying to build an entire oncology franchise, not just sell one drug.
That's a big shift in mindset. It's the difference between having a hit song and having a career.
Exactly right.
And speaking of shifts, let's talk about the stock chart. Because if you were watching Day One in January, you probably got whiplash.
Just a little bit, yeah.
I mean, look at the tape. On January 13th alone, the stock shot up 26.7% in one day.
That was the market finally digesting that revenue news.
And if you zoom out, over the last 4 weeks, it's up around 22, 23%. It really feels like a breakout.
It absolutely is a breakout narrative. For months, the stock was just languishing in that $10 to $11 range. It was stuck. That preliminary report was the catalyst that just smashed through that resistance. And the volume on that day was huge, which tells you it wasn't just retail traders. Institutions were buying.
But then, the very next day, January 14th, it dropped about 10% intraday. I'm guessing some people panicked there.
A few might have, but honestly, that looked like classic profit-taking. A stock jumps nearly 30%.
Yeah.
Short-term traders are going to cash out. But what's telling is that the analysts didn't flinch. The ratings stayed moderate buy. The market basically saw that dip as a buying opportunity, not a red flag. It's just what happens when a stock shifts from speculative to growth.
Right, shaking out the weak hands. So you mentioned the analysts. What are the big banks actually saying? Are they buying into this growth story?
Overwhelmingly, yes. The sentiment is very bullish. That surge on the 13th, that happened the same day TD Cowen initiated a buy rating with a $34 price target.
$34. What's it trading at now?
It's been hovering around $11, $12. So a $34 target implies what? Roughly 200% upside. That's a huge call.
That is aggressive. That's a triple.
It is, but even the consensus is really strong. The average price target across Wall Street is $22.25. That's still over 100% upside. And it has a Zacks rank of number 2, which is a buy.
It's almost funny. I was looking at the headlines, and 4 out of the last 5 major stories were just glowing. It's tough to find a bear on this one right now.
It really is. The data is just doing all the talking. When you beat revenue expectations by that much, it forces everyone to rerun their models, and the output is almost always a higher price target.
Okay, but my job is to be the skeptic. It can't all be good news. What happens if this goes wrong? What's the bear case?
That's the right question to ask. There are 2 main risks hanging over the stock. The first, and by far the biggest, is the Firefly-2 trial.
The phase 3 trial for that frontline expansion?
Correct. Phase 3 trials are always risky. Even with great phase 2 data, things can go wrong. Maybe the efficacy isn't quite as good in a larger group. Maybe a new safety issue pops up. If Firefly-2 fails, the growth story takes a massive, massive hit.
It's a high severity risk.
Very high severity.
Ugh.
If that trial fails, the stock probably drops 50% overnight. Now, the counterargument is that 3-year durability data. The drug clearly works, which reduces the risk. But until that phase 3 data is out, it's a binary event.
And the second risk?
Insider selling. There was some noise about this back in May and August of 2025. You saw filings that showed executives were selling shares.
Yeah, that never looks good. The gut reaction is always, if you know it's going up, why are you selling?
Exactly. And for many people, that's a red flag. But context is really key here. A lot of that selling was part of these pre-planned schedules, these 10b5-1 plans.
Right, so they're set up months in advance.
Months in advance, yeah. So they can't be accused of trading on inside info. And significantly, all that selling happened before this recent revenue explosion.
So they actually sold too early.
They did. They missed the big pop. So it looks more like standard personal financial planning than a lack of confidence. But a bear will still point to it.
Okay, so the risks are there, but they seem explainable. So for the listener who's interested, what should they be watching for? What's on the calendar for the first quarter of 2026?
It's going to be a busy quarter. First and foremost, watch for the Firefly-2 enrollment completion announcement. That's expected in Q1.
Why does enrollment completion matter so much? It's not the results.
No, but it starts the clock. Once enrollment is done, you can project when the data will actually drop. It de-risks the timeline. It tells the market the trial is on track, no delays. It's a huge milestone.
Got it. What else?
We should see the first phase 1 data for Day 301. That's the drug from the Mersana acquisition. This will be the first real test of whether that purchase was a genius move. If that data looks good, it unlocks a whole new layer of value for the stock.
And I assume earnings?
Yep. The Q4 and full year 2025 earnings call. Probably late February, early March. They'll confirm the final numbers and, more importantly, they'll reiterate that 2026 guidance. Investors will want to hear that $225 to $250 million projection is still rock solid.
And there was something about an international launch.
Yes, through their partnership with Ipsen.
Yeah.
That's for all the markets outside the U.S.
Right.
We could start seeing some revenue from that later in the year. It's another growth lever that hasn't even really started yet.
So plenty of news flow. This isn't a buy and forget about it stuff.
Absolutely not. It's a very dynamic story.
All right, let's wrap this up. How should our listeners be thinking about Day One Biopharmaceuticals right now?
I think you have to look at it through 2 different lenses. If you're more of a swing trader, you're looking at the momentum. The stock just broke out, the volume is high, and you have these catalysts coming up in the next 3 to 6 months. There's a setup for a potential run-up into those events.
And for the long-term investor, someone looking out a few years.
For them, the thesis is even simpler. You are buying into a high-growth oncology franchise that is just starting to hit its stride. You have a drug with a 5-year moat, a clear path to double or triple its market, and a pipeline that's now diversified. If the analysts are right about the fair value being between $22 and $34, you're looking at a potential double and triple over the next couple of years.
It really does feel like a company that's growing up right in front of us.
It is. That shift from hoping it works to selling what works is the real sweet spot in biotech investing. It's where the biggest value is often created, and Day One is sitting right in the middle of it.
Selling what works. I like that. A lot better than hoping.
Much better for the portfolio, that's for sure.
Well, there you have it, a deep dive into Day One Biopharmaceuticals. As always, thank you for listening to Smart Wealth with Joshua. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up with these breakouts.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.